Sometimes, if you murder enough people, you can go home again here on Vizier Please. A vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
It's time to get a little bit of truth out of a very big liar. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Why don't you tell us what we watched this week?
Improbable Cause, Season 3, Episode 20, first aired April 24th, 1995. Teleplay by Renee Echevera, story by Robert Letterman and David R. Long, directed by Ben Sisko himself, Avery Brooks.
So there are a lot of times over the course of reviewing episodes of Season 3 where I've had to basically not say anything when you've asked questions. And it's really been because of leading up to this episode. This is obviously a direct consequence of several things that have happened in Season 3. A level of continuity that I don't believe we've ever truly experienced with Star Trek in terms of our journey through what we've watched so far. And this is payoff on top of payoff on top of payoff, not just for the character of Garak, but some of the key events that are taking place in the galaxy that are going to build to things in the future. So before we go too far in depth, Peter, please tell me your thoughts.
This is a good one, man. A lot of stuff coming out of left field here. A lot of great Star Trek, a lot of great TV, a lot of great Garak. It's interesting to see him really step into the forefront and have so much of the main cast interacting with him. He's so frequently been this side character that, you know, there's a Bashir, or maybe there's some play with Quark, but like this is main cast action here.
Yeah, he's the main character of this, and his name is not in the opening credits. And, you know, spoiler alert, this says to be continued. He's going to continue to be the main character in the next episode.
Yeah.
But to me, the greater feat of this is how it builds from the Search Part 1, right? Like everything we've seen in this season of Deep Space Nine has led to this, from exploring the Gamma Quadrant to try and find the Founders, what happens when they found them, what occurred to the Defiant crew once they were discovered, the reaction that has evidently occurred in the rest of the galaxy, the rest of the Alpha Quadrant as a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
What we know about what was happening is a consequence of Defiant, the episode with Riker's transporter clone. Yep. The episode where the Romulans almost blew up Deep Space Nine, if it were not for a lost space-time injury.
Like, if it was not for, I think we can only fairly assume, was the Prophets directly intervening, because that was a whole lot of coincidence in that one.
Exactly. And then here we are. And it's all tied together by the series' most enigmatic character that happens to be in the exact right place to execute on this plot and be a part of it, and drag Odo along for the ride, who is, I think, the perfect foil for this, for everything else we've just discussed. You know, the most amazing thing about all this is, to me, Peter, that wasn't the original idea for this episode. The original idea that they had for this episode was going to be that the Obsidian Order is going after Garak because he killed Entek in Second Skin, the guy who was the case manager for trying to convince Kira that she was a Cardassian so they could get at the Cardassian legate that was her quote-unquote dad.
Which is a solid episode foundation in and of itself.
Indeed. Would have been a great...
killed a lot of Cardassians in great places. He killed Entek. He killed Gull Cargo Bay. I think he's killed a couple other Gulls. Like, this dude does not fuck around with shooting little people.
So that was a great idea, but then they converted it instead to say, what if we pay off whatever's going on in the Uriah system that we teased earlier about the Obsidian Order? And then, I guess we can also link in the Romulans too, because we've kind of teased that they're up to some nonsense and willing to throw hands. Mm-hmm. And this comes together. There's another thing that I did not know this until I read the Memory Alpha. This was not intended to be a two-parter.
Well, thank goodness someone over there can say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of great content. Instead of cutting this down to 45 minutes so we can jam in another episode about insert random Voyager bullshit, insert random Enterprise bullshit. Um, what was the bad one we just watched? Oh, Quark dicking around with the prophets and a Herman's Head episode. They're like, let's do a two-part, at least a two-parter here.
And I like that they had the awareness to stop in the middle of production of the episode. They didn't like the ending that they had, which was the scene in the middle of the episode where he tells Bashir, Garak tells Bashir, go get the data rod that's under this panel and then eat it, and it's a joke. The original version of that scene was, find that data rod. If I don't come back in 72 hours, give it to Cisco. It was like a legitimate, like, I have dirt.
Dead man's drop.
Dead man's drop. And that's at the end when he tells Tane to get them out of it. And it was like, everyone's like, that sucks. That's a terrible ending. And so they made a late change. They're like, actually, let's do two parts. They just came up with another script. They actually shot through the looking glass in between these two. They didn't shoot them in sequential order because they had to come back to it, having had kind of this late breaking idea. And so they had to change production. They had to change viewing order and all kinds of other things. But it takes a lot for you to like stop in the middle of making something and be like, actually, we need to make a real change to what we're up to because we're onto something with this. And we need to find a better way to pay it off than what we had planned, which, again, going all the way back to something we started talking about at the beginning of season 3, that is a level of creative confidence bordering on arrogance that you require to do that.
Yeah.
And it's, again, another example of why the show is good, is because they just believed in themselves enough to tell the story that they thought they should tell. Let's open then. Let's talk about the teaser. Once again, we're at lunch. It's Garak and Julian.
Garak hates Shakespeare.
Garak
hates everything that is not boring Cardassian propaganda. He has, what was the last one they were arguing about? Something that Julian had offered up.
Bashir was lamenting that every mystery's tale that Garak gives him is the same thing, which is everyone is guilty. And he doesn't find that interesting. And then Garak's like, no, but the fun is in determining exactly what they're guilty of. And in this, we're playing the reverse, which is Julian gave Garak Julius Caesar, and Garak doesn't understand why it would be an interesting story because Caesar should have seen the betrayal coming. And Bashir's making the case to him like, that's why it's a tragedy. He should have seen it coming, and he didn't. He had a flaw. He trusted people too much. He decided to turn his back on former enemies, thinking, oh, they will not betray me. He was blind to their ambition and their desires, which Garak just doesn't understand. Like, why would that ever happen? How could you be considered a great man if you don't know exactly that that's what's going to occur? Fascinating conversation.
Very much so.
It feels like normal person versus vampire LARPer having a conversation. Like, what do you not know about the dark heart of the human soul that would lead you to believe that they wouldn't betray you? My goodness.
It's one of these interesting things, too, where it's like, it's Star Trek. All the aliens are really humans. They all exemplify some trait. It's not great in terms of science fiction, but it's compelling TV, and it gives us the looking glass to tell these stories to humans about human-like things.
I get the impression also in this scene that Garak is, highlighting how much he doesn't like his life a little bit because he's willing to do whatever is necessary to continue talking with Bashir rather than having to go back to his job.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm, real bored. And Julian's like, well, how about you fix my goddamn pans?
He's like, fine. I'll get to it later. Just
don't
care.
That's a good point. I didn't really consider that when I was watching it, that this was all really there to showcase that he is deeply unhappy and unsatisfied or dissatisfied. I was thinking about the Wire.
Yeah.
The anti-interrogation implant that he had that is supposed to release happy juices in his brain when he's under massive physical duress, and how he had basically formed a substance addiction to it and was overclocking it for a antidepressant regimen, basically. And that's gone. He completed that episode, The Wire, basically through the help of Julian Bashir, and has been raw dogging it since. And that's no longer there. So he's not suicidal by any stretch of the imagination, but he is not a happy camper.
Him not being a happy camper plays into the entire drama at the end, right? I think like it bookends in a very clever way in this fashion, because the episode ultimately ends with him getting to go back to the very life that he's essentially subconsciously pining for through his dissatisfaction with his current one. So I felt like there was a symmetry to this that, again, when you consider that this wasn't what they intended to do when they initially shot this thing, but figured out that that was the story in the middle,
that it needed
very
to be.
smart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very smart. The teaser wraps after Garak goes back to his shop. Kira makes her one and only appearance for her paycheck to talk about some Yellowsian ambassador that apparently breathes poison gas that kills carpet.
Melts the paint off the walls and burns carpeting. Yeah.
Man, running a space station in the 24th century is tough, man. Like,
I mean,
okay, we've got some ambassadors showing up. They're from a planet of death. We've got to create a death room for them to be in. It's corrosive to human life.
That's the same thing that they would have been dealing with on the Enterprise, and maybe that's a side effect of having bedrooms that look like Holiday Inn Expresses, is that they are extremely resilient to the variety of climate. Like all of the chairs in my dorm when I was in college were like very, very expensive. If you broke a chair, it was like big money. And it's like, well, what the hell? And I'm like, people are sending their kids here. I'm sure this is the most over-engineered chair possible. Like it wasn't a rocking chair, but you could like lean back in it without falling over. And I'm sure there was crazy fire rating and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's cool that there's a box on the wall that prints food, but maybe what's more impressive is that the bed comforter doesn't melt under 98% of the habitats of Federation members. Maybe that's why those pillows are all so terrible. Those like triangle pillows.
It's true. It's also uncomfortable looking.
The
price they
pay. It's structural integrity.
Sorry, down comforters can't make it in a Uridian atmosphere, so you're just going to have a prison blanket. The conversation is interrupted by an explosion, a very extremely large and dramatic explosion that occurs within Garak's shop. If this episode has a flaw, it's that it looks like, a freaking IED went off in there that just incinerated the whole place, but Garak's just like on the ground, a little like gash on his forehead of like, that is just so extraordinarily suspicious right off the rip. Like, why aren't you more serious? Why are there little burns on you? Like, you were in the middle of this explosion and you're just kind of fine? What's going on? What's happening?
Well, there's a lot of explosions on Deep Space Nine. It's very rare that someone's actually killed in one. The last one that springs to mind is obviously Kai Wynn, back when she was
Vedic, yeah.
Vedic Wynn bombing Kiko's school. I'm trying to think when the last... I think there was the diplomatic corps arriving, but that wasn't a bomb. That was just Deep Space Nine being Deep Space Nine. So, ultimately, why didn't Garak die or suffer more wounds? Well, by the way, if you haven't watched this episode, somehow, you should stop listening to us right now and you should go.
Yeah, we've already spoiled the end, but we're just gonna jump around to different parts in it because that's the compelling part of the story, is to discuss the scenes in the context of knowing what happens in the end. And I agree, obviously, he sets it off himself, so that's why he's not seriously hurt, but considering he's just not hurt at all, there was one disconnect I had. Is like, as good as Odo is in this episode at being Detective Odo, like he's like the opposite of Detective Tuvok. We've firmly established this guy actually does solve crimes.
Yes,
and knows how to lock doors. Yeah. And it's the one piece of the puzzle that seems like there was a huge bomb that went off in your shop and somehow you were completely uninjured. Why? It's not something anyone ever really addresses in the episode. It goes unremarked. A bit of a miss, but the bomb goes off. Garak is fine, but clearly something has gone wrong. And when O'Brien, Odo, and Cisco go to investigate, they find that there is a rare explosive material that was behind a power conduit that made a literal IED. So our meme has become real to blow the shop apart, suggesting, of course, that someone has targeted Garak for assassination. And stereotypically, Garak does not want to talk about who that could be or why, denying that he was ever in the Obsidian Order and that, maybe it was some Nausicaan who was upset about their tailoring job. He maintains his cover, so to speak. Now, no one is fooled, which is important in this episode. No one believes that Garak isn't a member of the Obsidian Order. That is now a kind of fact amongst all the characters. Garak is comically unable or unwilling to talk about it as if it were fact, but it's not like he's deceiving anybody at this point. He's just making the choice not to reveal the information, and the Federation is not interested in making him because they aren't really in a position. They're not the kind of organization that would make you do that.
Cisco's seen the advantage and doesn't want to needle it.
Right. He likes having Garak there. He's used the fact he's had Garak there to his advantage. Garak being there has saved the station on a couple of occasions.
Many times.
And
from Galore class warship fleets there to hammer him. So yeah, leave this guy alone. Let him be spooky. That's a can we can continue to kick down the road.
However, Odo still wants to solve the crime, and Cisco wants him to. They have a really good scene together where they're kind of recounting the facts available to them. And whatever is happening, they're less concerned about Garak's personal safety as they are what are the larger implications of the fact that someone is trying to kill him for who he is, clearly. And that's that's the interesting part of the conversations that take place between Cisco and Odo, or the conversation between them of, we have to get to the bottom of this because this can't possibly be happening in isolation. Like, why now? It makes no sense because they initially think it's the Romulans who are doing it, which opens up a lot of questions as to why that's occurring. And Odo is doggedly pursuing this because he feels like there's probably more to what's going on, which of course is a very accurate assessment on his part, which is why the detective part of the story works as well as it does. The initial trail leads specifically to a very well-designed alien called a Flaxian. It reminds me of some of the Voyager one-off, incredibly well-designed, intricate makeup guys.
I was listening to our, I don't know if it was the season 7 rip for Voyager or the series rip for Voyager, but I had forgotten how inventive they were with their one-offs. And I think it's because a lot of times they have like a trick, like the bubble neck guy or something else. And I'm sure it makes that a hard costume to film in and to put on repeatedly. This guy looks very distinct and new, but he doesn't have a trick prosthetic piece that's like moving around. And I think that's probably for the best because he has quite a bit of speaking, and he also has to have some pretty good body language as Odo starts threatening to basically mix poison gas in the room, and he has to back him off.
Yeah, the whole, the makeup on his front is very intricate. It's kind of a lot of lines. He's got the classic shit in his hair. All right, so that's definitely part of it. But to me, it's the spindly sort of things coming off his chin and his hand.
Yeah.
It sort of suggests a sort of sensory sensitivity, which suddenly makes the kills with like poison gas makes a lot of sense, right? Like, oh, he deals in fragrance. He looks like an alien that might be sensitive to that kind of olfactory ability. I thought it was just a really clever design of an alien you just never see ever again, right? Again, spent all this time designing this guy, put him in some great makeup, have a great scene with him. Never use the Flaxians ever again, which is a shame.
Yeah.
This guy
There's
comes off
crimes.
This guy comes off as a real smarmy asshole who's, ideal in perfumes, and Odo clocks him clean and threatens to mix the poison gas that he knows that those 3 fragrances would create right in front of him, gets him basically to confess without confessing to run him off the station. But this creates an obvious issue that he concludes we've got a bigger problem because this guy was definitely sent here to kill Garak, but he kills with poison gas, and Garak's ship blew up. This is not how this guy kills people.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to fucking find out more. I'm going to follow him. Slaps an air tag on his ship. Just in a roundabout. Goes check him out. Garak apparently has just helped himself to whatever security codes, like Quark. He's just on the runabout waiting for him, like on this military vessel. Like, hey, bud, what's up?
I got my away bag. I got my overnighter bag here. Where we
go.
going? Mm-hmm.
I know you put an air tag on the ship. Let's go. It was like, why are you here? What is going on? What? How many laws did you break to get in here? It's like, hey, time's ticking. You gotta go. We gotta go.
I like Odo does not usually suffer people making him do things, but he has this rock in a hard place because bad guy is fleeing, and Garak knows all he needs to do is just bide his time until like they're about to lose the signal. So they zip off in pursuit, and once you know it, before the guy can go to warp, he explodes.
We cut back to the wardroom after that for, the why did this guy's ship explode? We get Dax in there for her one scene to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
And I felt very interested. I felt like the point that gets made here of why do Romulans want to kill you, Garak? And he just says, I don't know. And Cisco's getting mad about, like, I'm really tired of you not explaining things. And Odo's like, well, no, I think he actually doesn't know. When he knows, he lies. He's caught off flat-footed right now because he actually doesn't know. Now suddenly he's more invested in trying to figure out what's going on because now he's not exactly sure why someone's trying to kill him. He knew someone was trying to kill him. But if the fact that it's the Romulans and not the Cardassians does in fact surprise him. Odo goes to his clandestine contact after telling Cisco, why don't you not ask me questions and give me a runabout and I'll see what I can find out. Goes to his shady contact, gets the names of everyone else that had been killed by the Romulans.
This is a really nice scene in the caves, too, because they're using the upper level and the base level to prevent a face-to-face meeting. And it reinforces that Odo does have a deep, I don't say respect, but this guy made his rounds under the Cardassian regime. He's got some contacts in some great places. This guy in particular owes him. And what I like is, he tosses the list down and he's like, okay, I think this, we can all agree that this satiates my favor I owed you. By the way, if you want to tell me what the results of your investigation are about these people, it'll put me back in your debt. It is these Cardassian guys who we already know are very prone to working with third parties, continuing to use an old Cardassian ally as a third party. I also like that he throws the Cardassian neck trick in his face as well.
It's a good clandestine operation thing to work with people that you think you can sort of trade information with, right? Like that's a spycraft thing. It also reveals that not everyone in the Obsidian Order is in on this because this guy gives up really critical information to Odo. It's genuinely useful to figure out what's going on. It wants information back about whatever's happening. So this isn't like a completely unified thing at the end, as we'll come to understand. When he comes back with that list, and for the very first time, I think you see Garak actually shocked. Like he a lot of his pretense is stripped from him, and he does something that is so personal and vulnerable in front of Odo that's kind of stunning. He scrambles a signal and contacts Cardassia and contacts a very specific person there. I got a question for you, Peter.
Yeah.
Who is Mila?
We are told that is that's Enabrium Tane's housekeeper.
Correct.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that's probably Garak's mom.
Okay, so here we are, right? If that's Elam Garak's mom, who's Elam Garak's father?
His stepdad, clearly. So is that his dad? Is that a brother? Some sort of family relation? I don't know. But now it's not just a professional relationship between Garak and Tane. It's something much more personal.
Correct. So the episode does not say who Mila is. The episode does not further elaborate who Inebrian Tane is from aside from beyond what we already know about him. But I think it's fair to say that Garak calling a figure that reads like it's his mom to anyone who would watch.
My read on this thing, watching it cold, was that this lady was motherly to Garak, and that, you know, there was a close, not sexual or romantic or anything, but while Tane was mentoring Garak, that there was also some sort of a sympathetic relationship that this lady had.
And by the way, I'm not saying that she is his mother. I'm saying for all intents and purposes, she reads as his mother.
She could read as an aunt as well.
Right.
It's somebody who, if not a biological family relation, this mentorship was a family, some sort of a family structure, very close.
Calls him by his first name, makes him promise to help Tane. Like,
this
there's
lady
clearly
has lobbied for Garak. You can tell, like, at some point there was deliberations of what do we do with Garak. This lady used what cachet she had to go to bat for this guy.
And none of this is expressed on screen directly. There's no need to. They do such a great job, given how guarded he's been, and then suddenly have this incredibly personal thing happen of like, this is somebody who absolutely knows who Garak actually is, and is like, oh, sweetheart, I'm so happy to see you. You know,
yeah.
Hey, you know, Inebrian's in trouble. You need to go help him. Please promise me you're going to help him. Like, she successfully extracts that promise too. And he does this in front of Odo. And first, that's a lot of trust to give to Odo to see that. Like, if you're as guarded as Garak has been, he doesn't show that to Julian, right? He showed that to Odo. And then when they get on the runabout to go to the safe house that Garak suspects that if Tane is in trouble and he might be getting assassinated by the Romulans where he would have fled to, we get Odo expressing his opinion as to who Tane actually is, and using, of course, Mila's existence as a way to do so. And this is the other scene in this episode that I think is just top notch because it really focuses on Odo's ability to read things very successfully. He's been a very good detective through all of this, but he really misses the emotional beats. And Garak notices that he misses the emotional beats, like that Odo hasn't actually figured out that Mila himself and Inebrian Tane have more than a professional relationship with each other. It's obvious to us as the audience that that's probably the case. The exact nature of it, perhaps, to be revealed in the future. But to Odo, oh, you were just mentored by him. You were close. You know, there was more than you just were an associate. You know, he taught you things. That's like the level 1 read. And Garak gets mad at him because he doesn't seem to understand the emotional thing that was revealed to him, which is why he comes back at him of like, are we all just puzzles for you to figure out? Is there not one person you see that it's more than that?
And this isn't the first time this has been thrown in his face. There was a great scene with Quark and Odo when Quark was trying to get Odo to help with his Cardassian rebellion girlfriend. Odo enjoys when people bring this up because it's another opportunity for him to learn. He is very present during these scoldings.
He's very present, and also he does reveal a little bit. Mm-hmm. He says, if I did, I wouldn't tell you, which is like saying yes.
I was really waiting for him to be like, yeah, you wouldn't tell me about Kira, motherfucker, we can all see it.
And yeah, he's very poor at hiding it, at least when on camera, but it's interesting to think about how that might have been something like someone that Garak might have already picked up on. But I think it interesting in the sense that Garak seems a little offended almost that he didn't figure out more after seeing that. And that's kind of why he reacts in a shitty way towards him. But it's a nice way to leave the conversation to kind of get to the heat of the plot, which is they go to the safe house only to whoopsie daisy right in front of a Derek's class warbird. And turns out Nebri Tain isn't in any trouble whatsoever. And we got some continuity to pay off. This warbird is in Cardassian space, not because the Romulans are going to attack Cardassia, but because actually they're getting together. We're going to have a fun time together because the CIAs of the Cardassian Union and the Romulan Star Empire have decided, you know what? That dragon on the other end of this wormhole, we think it's a problem. It's a problem that needs to be solved. And we know where they hang out because the Federation found them and shared that information with us. So we're just going to take a bunch of ships and blow it up. Problem solved. You're welcome, everybody.
It's a good pairing. First of all, we're talking about the Obsidian Order, which has strict rules on it against having their own military hardware. They're supposed to be relying on Central Command.
Correct.
We touched all this stuff during the Riker Define episode. Now, my assumption was that the founders had already made contact with the Cardassians and that they were working with the Obsidian Order to build ships to basically empower the Obsidian Order to overthrow Central Command and use them as pawns in the Alpha Quadrant to assist them as the invasion starts. It turning out that it's a joint venture with the Tal Shiar, which very funny because when they say Tal Shiar, like it's in like Tal Shiar
Shiar.
Like,
yeah.
No, this is just regular good Tal Shiar.
Different uniforms, by the way, than Ron Moore insisted on. That's why they're not so shoulder patty. So
Cool
apparently he had the same
yeah.
complaint we did from the Lost Time space injury episode. Of like, oh, we got to cut that shit down. It looks too 90s.
So them viewing the Dominion as a threat works because now we have had the Cardassians attempt to collapse the wormhole.
Correct.
In the subspace transceiver episode with the comet and the prophecy. We just had the Romulans try to collapse the wormhole by blowing up Deep Space Nine.
Correct.
They all have intelligence reports on what the Dominion looks like. And I find the idea that they think they're going to take a joint fleet that is not a full 100% of the resources of both these guys, because Central Command's not involved at all. And I don't know what degree the Star Empire is involved or, Tal Shiar. It's cloudy what Tal Shiar directs as far as Romulan military resources go. But both of you guys, maybe the Romulans are a real threat to the Federation. The Cardassians were not prior to Wolf 359. So the Romulans being so arrogant as to think you can get the fucking bootleg Cardassians, these third-rate Nazis, to go in there and take the war to the Dominion based on the information they have and the firepower. Again, these guys took out a fucking Galaxy class with
Correct.
little bullshit fighters. Like, this is not going to go well for these guys. This is not going to go well at all. And I don't think this is sloppy writing. Right now, my theory is that, and again, I know the Cardassians are going to throw in with the Dominion, so I'm cheating a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if this Obsidian Order op is to bring the Romulans over to the Dominion so the Dominion can take this vanguard of the Romulan military machine and fucking rock it and use that as step one into conquering the Alpha Quadrant, saying, here is, short of the Klingons, the most powerful military in this area. We have lured them into a trap. The Cardassians have stabbed them in the back with us. Right. And now we're going to begin the offensive with potentially your most potent ally shut down.
I mean, you're kind of, this is where we're going to shine, I think, as commentators, particularly you, because we just have a lot of experience when it comes to dealing with what is the nature of weakening an opponent. Mm-hmm. And if you're the Dominion, what would you like more than to take the only two effective clandestine agencies with a real sense of the threat, who are, as you noted, willing to destroy the wormhole to prevent the Dominion from actually having access to the Alpha Quadrant? well, why not lure them into a disastrous military commitment that could take them off the board and
Absolutely.
make the Alpha Quadrant that much easier to deal with.
Yep.
And I think the
The
fact that
Romulans
you're
were a big focus in the VR testing chamber that they had Cisco on Founder decoy planet.
very interested in who they are and their potential effectiveness in dealing in being in opposition to the Dominion.
Yeah.
So, ripping a big piece off of them to sort of set them back, that's a huge step that you want to take. The Cardassians are clearly someone you have to get. If you're the Dominion and you're looking at this from a geopolitical strategic perspective, and your intention is like, I'm invading the Alpha Quadrant because I have this, inborn desire on the part of the founders to essentially to subjugate all solid life because none of it can be trusted not to kill us. So I have to go deal with this problem proactively. If I'm doing that, I need a foothold on their territory. What is the foothold on their territory? Obviously, the largest civilizational group that's close to the wormhole. So if I could find a way to subvert that sufficiently such that it will join me, that can be my foothold within this part of space. They can serve as a subsidiary, part of the Dominion and allow me to have access to the rest of the space because it'll be right next to the wormhole. They've got an industrial base and a pre-planned military, and they already have an organized society that can be mobilized. All right, what are my other threats? The Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. All right, the Romulans are antagonistic towards the Klingons and the Federation. Traditionally, I can see that, I can perceive that, I can use that to my advantage. But also, they're extraordinarily effective on a clandestine level. They're willing to operate in the shadows and do dirty shit. That's a problem for me. I need to make sure I get them off the board. I need to make sure they get enough intelligence of the right kind that they think that they need to deal with this, and only they are potentially in a position to willingly do so, because the Federation is going to say, no, we know what their priors are. We can manipulate that by putting them in a position to think that they can negotiate, or there's some way out of this as a direct military conflict, which they abhor. The Romulans don't feel that way. So I sucker them into committing to something. They're not going to do it alone. They're not going to go to the Klingons. They're not going to go to the Federation. But I bet I can take the Obsidian Order off the board by putting them together to try and do this. Eliminate both. You destabilize the Cardassian Union. They don't have their CIA anymore, something that is intrinsic to their police state society. I've taken the Tal Shiar off the board. Now the Romulans, who are prone to isolation anyway, are going to isolate more because now they're like, fuck, this is serious. And by the way, we're the furthest away from this fucking wormhole, so we'll use that to our advantage and back the fuck off, which leaves you only with the Federation and the Klingons to deal with. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And who's the best person to set up to make this fucking mistake? Nebri and Tane. Bring the old, the guy who survived long enough to retire,
but didn't want to.
Didn't want to. Well, tell him he can come, set up a situation where he can storm back into power by initiating this incredible alliance with the Romulans and striking this blow against this antagonist.
Go be a hero.
Right.
Never-ending sacrifice.
I love the scene that Tane has with Garak.
Real quick, I like that when Cisco contacts the Romulans and is like, hey, this guy's ship blew up. And they're like, well,
fuck that guy.
There was a warrant out for his execution, and what we did was within our rights as far as we go. And it's like, this was Bajorn. This wasn't your space.
Like, so I guess there's certain honesty of you caught us trying to blow you up, so we're not gonna lie to you anymore.
Hey, there you go.
You're kind of onto us, so fuck it. I guess we'll just be honest with you.
Yeah.
But when they get to the ship and they're captured and Tane is there, I really like the actor for Tane. He captures the old spy, master of dark, power in the shadows, quite well. He's the way he talks is just it's so much different than a lot of other characters because he's just so supremely confident in every utterance that it exudes a sort of authority, even though he's kind of just an old fat man, right? There's nothing physically intimidating about him, but he just commands the room, and you feel it, and you kind of get it, and you can see why Garak looks up to him. as somebody who's
Absolutely.
just his supreme confidence in himself. And he reveals the plot, he reveals the story, and we've kind of already researched from their perspective of like, we're just going to go do this. And we don't necessarily find out exactly what Garak did to be exiled, but whatever it was a betrayal of Tane. Garak claims it was not a betrayal in his heart, which suggests he did something that he didn't feel was betraying Tane personally, but went against maybe his orders in some fashion. It's unclear. And Garak honestly reveals, like, I came here thinking I needed to save you. and and Tane believes him.
Yeah. Tane's like,
And
cool, here's your life. You can leave.
or
Which Odo's like, well, this is a trap. He's going to kill you. This guy already tried to kill you. And Tane, yeah, complicates and says, it is a trap because you can either go away and live scot-free or you can get into this fucking death trap with me, which she doesn't recognize as a death trap, obviously. But
of course. And it's everything Garak ever wanted to hear, right? Like this book ends, like I said, perfectly with the opening of he's dissatisfied with his life. Like you said, he's been raw dogging, not having his happy juice in his brain. And here is his close mentor, someone he possibly has a familial relationship with, who is saying, you're back if you want to be back. I believe that you came here to save me. That is enough for me to think that you can be part of the team again. Why don't you, if you come with me now, you can have everything back that you had before.
which
Everything.
Tane has always been holding in his back pocket anyways. Tane
Right.
saved his life in the Wire. Tane did not execute him initially. Tane has been holding Garak as an ace up his sleeve of sorts. This lurking resource that, as Tane has not been sitting in the chair as the head of the Obsidian Order, he has been fine to go, okay, well, here's this great operator that I can ultimately keep loyal to me and me alone. And I will put him in purgatory until I'm ready to activate him. It's interesting that his first effort was to just kill him, and I think Tane had too much motivation to chase his dream of becoming part of the system again. But yeah, it's a 1-2 punch. The left is I dodged your assassination attempt and determined it was you. And then the right hook is, and I'm here to save you anyways. So it's competency and it's loyalty. Why wouldn't you offer this guy a chance to come back in as you're trying to rebuild your castle?
Yeah, he's the one person who's demonstrated out of that group that you decided you needed to get rid of because they know too much. Okay, you're worthy. You've demonstrated you're the successor that we kind of are getting the implication he was always intended to become. And of course, Odo's already kind of in a bad spot because he was told right off the rip, like, you ain't leaving. Not letting you go. You'll definitely warn everybody. But Garak shakes his hand and says, I'm back. And that's where we get the to be continued. So naturally, I think as we've already discussed, where this next episode's going to go. We know this doesn't have a good ending. We already know, terrible war is on the horizon. So clearly this can't have succeeded. But
very interesting as to how this is going to fail.
Right. How it's going to fail. What are the consequences? Who makes it? Who doesn't? Also a big piece of it. And, what the downstream consequences of this. Because there's more things that happen here that resonate through the rest of the season that aren't things that are necessarily on the board yet, but things we've heard about that are going to start to pay off and ultimately all the way to this third season finale. So we may know what the fate of this fleet is, but there's still a lot to unpack. So what is that episode going to be, Peter?
We're going to be looking at, interesting, the die is cast. So this isn't a part 1 and part 2. The Cardassian Romulan fleet enters the Gamma Quadrant. Cisco goes against Starfleet orders to rescue Odo. We got a picture of Nabram Tane sitting there with Tal Shiar agent.
So this was a Ron Moore, David Livingston episode. So this thing got thrown together kind of last second, but they do a great job. And I think paying off the plots that they realized needed more time to percolate. So I look forward to reviewing that with you, sir, next week. And thanks to all of our listeners who have started subscribing to us on YouTube. We got over 500, as I think I mentioned in the last episode. And if you're the kind of person that wants to support us on YouTube, I did open up the opportunity to leave tips there. But other than that, we're not going to monetize the channel. We also have our Patreon at www.patreon.com/featureplease if you'd like to support us there. Check us out on Twitter at featureplease, Facebook. We have a Facebook group that we love to communicate with people on. It's been more active lately as we've found Facebook-oriented people who have found the show. Discord as well. Just drop me a line at featureplease@gmail.com if you want invites to any of that. See you next week.